The great Steve Kerr is with us right now. Good evening, Coach. How you doing?
Oh, thanks. How are you guys?
We're doing fine, man. I tell you what, we got all kinds of things that we're interested in talking about after a game like we saw a couple nights ago. Here's where I know I'd love to start, and I wonder if you noticed this dynamic too. Fans and media come out of a game like 2 nights ago, and they go, boy, this Draymond guy does a lot of good stuff, but man, he's a lot, right? Like, I got mixed feelings about him. And then I listen to all of you guys, and you guys talk about Draymond in a very different way, as if he's seeing things before they happen, and everything is a very glowing review. You don't seem conflicted. Do you notice the difference in the way the organization reacts within versus outside?
I don't notice a lot of the outside stuff. I pay attention to the organization's response, and we all like winning, so we like Draymond. It's pretty much as simple as that.
And is that what you have in your mind when you go to take Draymond Green off the floor after he commits the flagrant and he goes down and he commits the offensive foul and he's got to come out and we all know it, and you send in a sub and you see Draymond coming down the sideline? How do you have the ability to sublimate your ego in those moments and realize that Draymond's probably not going to be too pleased with your coaching decision?
Yeah, I mean, I knew he was going to be upset, but I felt like there was a high likelihood he was going to pick up his fourth on that next possession. And then, what followed was sort of typical Draymond. I take him out so he's angry because he's a competitor. And then he sits for a minute and a half, and the other team goes on an 8-0 run. And then I go, all right, let's put him back in. He's just so good in terms of the way he impacts our defense and the way he impacts the game emotionally and competitively that we have to have him out there. And that I thought that Pelicans game was the perfect example of just how competitive he is and how much we need him.
Steve Kerr with us on Willard and Dibs is brought to you by the Next Generation 10G network, only from Xfinity. The future starts now. Hey, what's recovery like with him? So, you know what I mean? Like one of those shouting matches happens on the bench. How long does it take you guys to get through that, and how quickly?
Oh, it's like just being brothers. I mean, it's like nothing. You don't even take it personally. I mean, we don't even have to discuss anything. I think he texted me, that night after the game, and just said something like, appreciate you always, allowing me the space or whatever it was, something like that. And my response is, of course, like this is, we've known each other for 9 years, and we've been through everything, and we both understand that we're just trying to win, so we're gonna be on each other occasionally, and that's fine. It's just in the name of winning, and we can get through that.
Do you get a lot of post-game texts from players, Coach?
I text guys sometimes after games, and occasionally they'll text me, or sometimes I'll have a text exchange with the player if I think something's going on, but it's not every night. But I would say from time to time I'll text with guys right after games.
Any halftime texting against New Orleans, or was it a conversation? Because we're all watching, Coach, and you guys go down by 17, and we're all starting to jump on Twitter. Oh, it's over. What are their lottery odds? This and that. What do you guys do in the locker room after that first half against New Orleans?
Well, as a staff, we discuss, all right, what just happened? What do we have to adjust to? What do we have to give to the players to latch on to? And it was pretty easy because the first half was all about our lack of poise and our turnovers. We were just in such a rush. And the reality was our defense was pretty good in the half court, but there's no defending 3-on-2s in the NBA. The athletes are just too big and strong. People are going to get layups and dunks and wide open threes, and that's what happened. I think New Orleans scored 20 points in transition in the first half. And so that's all we talked about was let's get poised. It's a long game, and here's what we have to do offensively. Make a couple of adjustments at that end to take care of the ball, and we'll get right back in it. And sure enough, it was 8-0 coming out of the break. They take a timeout. It's a 9-point game, and we're right where we need to be.
Steve, you could almost see it coming. To be honest with you, as a fan, it did look like Steph and some of the other guys walked back out onto the court with a different look in their eye. And I wondered aloud earlier, especially after the first half that Draymond specifically had, was there anything he did at halftime to sort of get everybody's mentality in a different spot?
No, he had already done it, during the first half, during timeouts, during replay reviews. I mean, he was all over everybody. And so he woke everybody up in the first half. Halftime was more about, let's take a look at, and analyze this thing and see where we can get better. And we always watch clips. We watch 8 or 10 clips of the first half, trends, things that we need to do better. And then we head back out, and it's pretty basic.
I don't want to make this Draymond radio, but it's so fascinating watching Draymond Green. And in the fourth quarter, he takes a charge, and he's called for a block, and he immediately goes twirly finger. When you see him go twirly finger, what do you do as a coach? Because you want to have his back, but you only have the one challenge. What's the process like between you and the assistants in terms of whether or not you go with Draymond, who wants to challenge everything?
Yeah, well, it's a great question because there are some variables. But the process in general is Jacob Rubin, one of our assistants who's behind the bench. He has the monitor. He looks, so I look over at him. He either gives me the thumbs up or the thumb down, and it's there's a lot of pressure on Jacob because you don't automatically get a great view of it, and sometimes there's a gray area, and we've kind of learned you don't get many block charge calls changed unless the defender's foot is either in the restricted circle or outside of it. So generally, it's just either a thumbs up or thumbs down. But I think we've learned too. Certain calls are more worth challenging than others. If that had been Draymond's sixth, we for sure would have challenged it. If that play happens in the second quarter and it's his first foul, we're probably not challenging it. But if a foul happens on a 3-point shot and a team's going to get 3 free throws out of it, and it's obvious, you definitely go challenge it because 3 points is 3 points. So you just got to factor all this stuff in, and including what it does to your timeout total, because some of these challenges, if you challenge it and you win, you get your timeout back. But others you don't, depending on circumstances. So you have to factor all that stuff in.
Steve, are you good at speaking to your own facial expressions? I would like to know when Steph does that left-handed 30-foot pass to Clay, boy, and he's 7 feet behind the 3-point arc and he nails it, and it's a dagger. The camera shot to you, and you just sitting there shaking your head. And I'm like, what's Steve thinking right now?
I was thinking these guys are insane. It's incredible, the shot making and the playmaking and the decision making. And it's all at once. I'm thinking all of those things, and that's what makes these guys just so fun to watch for our fans. And I think it's not just the skill, it's the audacity, it's the competitive fire. They're champions for a reason, but they're not the most fundamentally sound group, that's for sure. we take some real gambles that scare the hell out of me at times, but these guys get it done.
I think you should have a bag of popcorn at the ready for moments like that, because it felt like you were one of us. Not that you didn't have an impact in the game, but just the joy that you had watching that play reminded me as a fan, because, Steve, that game, as it looks now, turns out to be one of the biggest victories of the year.
Huge. I mean, these last few games have been so massive. Obviously, the Minnesota loss was a killer, and so that made the New Orleans game, especially important, as well as the remaining five. So, just this whole battle for playoff positioning down the stretch is massive, and what a comeback against New Orleans. That was an amazing effort by our guys.
Steve, there's always a lot of eyes on what's going on at the end of a game. How do you decide who's in for the Final Five?
Well, it's pretty much automatic that Steph, Clay, and Draymond are going to be out there. I think you guys know that. And then it's a question of, what do we need? Is it offense? Is it defense? The other night we had a 10-point lead with 4 minutes left, and we said let's put Looney out there because we need stops. We don't have to have points with a 10-point lead. We need stops. So let's get our best defensive guy out there. Last week in Dallas, we finished the game with Kuminga and Dante because they were both playing well, and we just rode with it. Jordan Poole has finished the last couple of games because he's been hot. So sometimes you just ride the hot hand. Other times you go with a lineup that's either more offensive-minded or more defensive-minded.
And I guess that's the sub-question or the follow-up question is the Jordan Poole part of this. What part of Jordan Poole's game makes it so that he is in the finishing lineup or at times is not a part of that finishing five?
Yeah, if he's going well offensively like he has been the last few games, then you stay with him. And, if he's taking care of the ball, making good decisions, and, because of his ability to attack the rim. But if he's not playing at that high of a level and you feel like you need something different, then maybe you go to Dante for a defensive matchup. When Wiggins is healthy, Wiggs is usually out there down the stretch. So it's a feel thing, but players generally kind of earn the minutes down the stretch.
Steve Kerr with us, Willard and Dibs, 95.7 The Game. Coach was certainly not going to ask for any bulletin board material. The statement was made on ESPN, though, that because of the fact that you guys would be able to drive rather than fly, this matchup that would be the matchup if things were to stay as they are right now, you and the Kings, the comment was made that you guys would like that. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, we're trying to just get to the next spot so we avoid the play-in. I mean, we were in the play-in 2 years ago. We lost both games and didn't make the playoffs. So I think what everybody's trying to do, in that bunched up group that we're in, is try to avoid, the 7, 8, 9, 10 spots. So beyond that, I don't really have any preferences. I just want to put ourselves in the best spot to be in the playoffs and to not put ourselves in a tough spot. And
I guess there's no such thing as drive lag, and there is jet lag. So you can always that's a freebie for you, Coach. Next time you're asked, if you want that from your boy Dibs.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And I know you kind of didn't address the Wiggins return, but you mentioned that he was working out when you talked to, I think it was Kerith Burke before the New Orleans game. Any updates on his workout regimen or any additional inclination as to Andrew Wiggins' forthcoming availability?
No, nothing to add. We've been in constant touch with him, and he is training every day. But there's really nothing further to add to that.
Steve Kerr with us here, Willard and Dibs, 95.7 The Game. Now sitting here with 5 games left. And no back-to-backs, Coach. So I wonder how does that – obviously you guys have to stay aggressive. Normally in Warrior lore, this is a time where you can start to get a little strategic with how you approach the playoffs. You don't have that luxury this year with no back-to-backs. What are some of the things you are working through with that planning over the last week and a half?
Well, the biggest thing is we got to have a practice today, which is extremely rare these days. But having 2 days in between games with the Spurs coming in all night gave us a chance to have a great practice today to work on some of the things that we feel needed work and some areas of improvement. So I think all in all, we're in a pretty good place physically. Having Gary back now is really important. Our players are all feeling healthy, and we're excited about where we are.
Gary got 9 minutes against New Orleans. Can we expect that his minutes will continue to ramp up? And if so, from where might those minutes come?
Well, he got more than that against Minnesota. I think he was up at 15 or so. And it's always going to depend on how the game's going. But, there's a domino effect when you inject anybody into the lineup. It doesn't necessarily just take minutes from one guy. It could potentially just move a lot of pieces around. And, the guy who was left out the other night was Draymond Green. He'd been playing well for us, and but you add another body to the equation, and J. Mike didn't get minutes, and we just have to determine each night, what we're looking for, what's important for us to try to win that game. So everybody's got to stay ready, and whatever happens, happens.
Steve, we asked you 2 weeks ago about the play on the road, and you really just kind of shrugged your shoulders like, hey, I can't explain it either. But at the end of the road trip, you got a couple of wins, the big one in Dallas. Do you feel like you found anything with your road play?
I think it would be a little premature to say that. If we can go, win again in our next road game, win a playoff road game, I'd feel a lot better about things at that point. But the Dallas win was really important. I didn't think we played particularly well, but we did pull out the win, and same thing in Houston. So it's a good sign that we're able to do that. But I still feel like there's more we can accomplish.
All right, Steve. Anything you want to say about the Dodgers' half-game lead on the Giants that they've opened up here in this baseball season?
I don't know. It's the Padres that everybody should be worried about. Man, what a lineup they have this year.
Yeah, no joke. Man. No joke. Steve, thank you so much as always. We love it. We appreciate it. And go get him tomorrow night.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks, Steve.
There he is. That's Steve Kerr in his weekly appearance right here on Willard and Dibs.